Get ready for your weekly dose of pixie dust with Dizney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show, I have my friend Jeremy joining me from the Mad Chatters podcast. Hello, Jeremy. How's it going?
Hello. Good to be here as always. How are you, Jeff DePauli?
Good, thank you. It's been a while, I feel like. Has it been like since the season premiere? Was it February, January that you were last
I think
on?
it was, because I was like your season kickoff.
Yeah. Wow, it's been a while since you've been on, but you are back, and if you folks are listening to this on the day of its release, it is June 12th, 2019, which just so happens to be Richard M. Sherman's 91st birthday. If you don't know Richard Sherman, of course he is Robert Sherman's brother, and together they were the Sherman Brothers, who wrote tons and tons and tons of music for the Walt Disney Company, were personally hired by Walt Disney. If you don't know much about them, I highly suggest checking out a documentary called The Boys, the Sherman Brothers Story. I know you're a big documentary fan. You like that one, Jeremy?
I'm very much a documentary nerd, and yes, I did. And let me just put a little disclaimer about it, because not quite the rosy Disney documentary that you would think it'd be. They had some pretty rough times in their life.
They certainly did, and some of the stuff goes unanswered, but nonetheless, it's a documentary that you'll watch and your mind will be blown just at like the amount of music they've written, not only for Disney, but like beyond that. And it's just like, you'll hear the song, you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that song. Oh wow, okay, that's a Sherman Brothers song. So it's really crazy, their library of music. And if you do want to watch this documentary, it's currently available to stream on Stars. You can also purchase it or rent it on YouTube, Fandango, and many more places. But it's truly one of my favorite Disney documentaries. So I highly, highly, highly suggest it.
And you also realize that they were brothers, so they fought like brothers.
Yes, they certainly did. And today we're going to have a conversation about the top 10 Disney Sherman Brothers songs. So let's jump into that conversation right now.
It's time to dive into today's Disney dialogue.
Okay, so these obviously are our opinion. We both have a top 10 list. I'm very curious to see if there's anything. I'm sure there's going to be some overlap here. I doubt we have matching numbers, but this is going to be interesting. We're going to go from 10 being our least favorite to number 1 being our favorite. So what is the number 10 on your list?
Number 10 on my list comes from an attraction that is currently in Tomorrowland here at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando, and that is Now Is the Time from Carousel of Progress, not Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, which I think is the default that everyone goes to with that attraction, and rightfully so. I mean, that's the song that is most associated with it. But for a time there, in like the late 70s, early 80s, there was another song, and I personally think it's a better song, in my humble opinion.
This is beyond interesting, because my number 10 is also, it's called The Best Time of Your Life, and it's also my number 10. How weird
is that the actual title, is The Best Time of Your Life?
Yeah, so it goes, now is the time, now is the best time, now is the best time of your life. And the name of the song is The Best Time of Your Life. And yeah, wow, first, I can't even believe we both had this as our number 10. That's crazy to me. But yes, so the original song written for this attraction, the greatest attraction in the Magic Kingdom, was Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. This is how it opened at the World's Fair. This is, that was the song associated with it in Disneyland Park. And then when it was moved from Disneyland to Walt Disney World, the story goes that General Electric was sponsoring it all of this time. And General Electric felt that having a song that said, there's a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day, to them it felt like basically the future, and they wanted it to be like, no, now's the time to buy your General Electric product. Not the future, now. So it was their request to have the song changed, and they went back to the Sherman Brothers, who wrote the original song, to write this new song. And it was when it went to Walt Disney World, they put in the song. And then in the early 90s, when they changed it to Walt Disney's Carousel of Progress, they brought back in Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. So I can't believe we both have this as our number 10.
It's a pretty deep cut because you can't just be a casual fan of the parks and know this song. I think it does encapsulate, though, like you said, this sense of optimism, not only for the future, but for the present. So sometimes you get so caught up thinking about tomorrow that you miss out on today. And I think that's why I like this song. It helps you to kind of focus on what you got now.
Yeah, and even though it's not currently part of the Carousel of Progress, you can still hear it in Tomorrowland and the background music loop. So you've noticed, I'm sure, right?
Oh, of course. And I sing along every time.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun because it's a fun little melody. A lot of people listening may recognize it even if they're not familiar with the song. So yeah, fun. That is both of our number 10, The Best Time of Your Life, from a version of the Carousel of Progress. So let's go straight to your number 9. I'll tell you, if we have another one that matches, I'll be in shock.
All right, well, my number 9 is from the film Mary Poppins.
Okay.
I'm trying to read your face.
Not a match.
Okay. And it is Chim Chimmery.
Chim Chim Churry.
Chim Chim Churry, thank you. The reason I like this song is I think that it is a fun song. It's kind of a tap your toe, sing along, sway, but it also can be seen as like a very serious song. So anytime that you can take a melody and slow it down and it makes it like a totally different vibe, I like that. And that's what they did in Saving Mr. Banks at the beginning. Kind of that very, very opening credits where Colin Farrell? Mm-hmm. Not Firth. Farrell. Colin Farrell. And he kind of like says the lyrics instead of singing them. The winds in the east. Ooh, it just gives me shivers down my spine. So I think that says a lot about a song if it can be versatile in such a way.
Yeah, I believe they do that in the Broadway musical as well. They use, I think it opens the show after the overture. I think you get kind of like a darker, slower version of Chim Chim Tree. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure this is the song from Mary Poppins that won the Sherman Brothers their Academy Award. Is it not?
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. So Chim Chim Tree, quite a good one. That is not my number 9, though. My number 9 comes from a movie that arguably, I think this song, which is part of the opening credits, is my favorite part of the movie. Not saying I dislike the movie, but I love the opening credits, and that is The Parent Trap. Of course, the Haley Mills movie. And I don't know why, but like the thing I remember most about this movie is that silly little, it feels like a Rankin Bass animation from like the holiday specials with the stop motion characters, and they have that great song called The Parent Trap. And I don't know, my sister really loved that movie, so I remember her watching it a lot, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. This is the original Parent Trap, by the way, not the remake with what's her face? Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay Lohan?
No, not that one. The original Parent Trap. That song is my number 9. Are you a fan of that song?
No.
Really? You don't like the song? Do you like the movie?
I don't like the song. I don't like the movie.
But do
Haley Mills.
You like the Lohan one, right? Or is that just Freaky Friday?
No, I love the Lohan one too. No, I just don't like Haley Mills in this. She kind of just drives me crazy. And this is not, later on we're going to talk about our least favorite songs, and this is not my least favorite song, but it's a second. Okay. And that is Let's Get Together, is one of the worst songs that has ever been written and performed by Haley Mills.
Alrighty, so tell me how you really feel about The Parent Trap.
It's just so obnoxious. Like, her voice is obnoxious. The whole vibe. Ugh.
Now, to be fair, the song that I selected, she does not sing. I don't know who's singing it, but it's the opening credits and it's, actual singers. Haley Mills does have like a musical career. She's done musicals and such, but I would agree, I'm not like the biggest fan of her voice. So yeah, I get it. Like when I hear Let's Get Together, I don't think to myself, oh, what a nice singing voice. That's some good work right there. Those aren't my thoughts, but yeah, okay, fair enough.
I throw the whole film together, like songs, Haley Mills, everything. It's all one lump of not good, in my opinion.
It's all one lump of not good. Nice. Okay, well, let's go to your number 8 and make a lump of good.
Okay, so number 8, I honestly don't know what it's from because the only association I have with this song is they released a best of the Sherman Brothers songbook album like 10 years ago.
Is it a Disney project? I'm curious what you're about to say. There are songs on that album that are not Disney.
Yeah, I think it is because I believe it's Ludwig van Drake.
Oh, yeah.
Sings it.
The red, purple, red, blue, 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 red, purple, green, orange, orange, red.
Yep.
The Spectrum, song.
And I don't know why, but I think it's just like the boop, 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 bloop, 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 bloop. It's so fun, and you can't help but not be in a good mood. And then I also associate it with World of Color, that song and show. Just because it talks about colors. It's totally stupid, I know. But
you know what, though? I would love to see that song incorporated into World of Color somehow. Like, that, I've never even thought of that, but I would love that. Like, that makes total sense. And it's not like there's a story in any of the World of Color. So to just put a random song in there about color would make more sense than almost anything they have in that show.
That's true. If it has Star Wars, it can have the Spectrum song.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I do like that song. It's not anywhere on my list, but it is a great song. And I think it was from one of those, like, educational videos that were made, or shorts that were made by Disney. I'm not 100% sure either where it came from, but it is a great song. I agree. Big fan of that one.
There are certain things that are just attached to nostalgia, and this is one of those for me, because when I think of Ludwig, I think of those films that you used to watch maybe in elementary school when they would roll the TBN on the cart and teacher didn't feel like teaching that day, or there was a substitute. So even though maybe I heard the song back then and I just don't remember it, but I just associate it with that automatically.
Sure.
And just little things that make you happy.
I love it. Good choice. Good choice. My number 8 is actually from a film I admittedly have never seen, but I know this song. It's called Your Heart Will Lead You Home. It's from the Tigger movie. And it's a really just like beautiful, I believe it's just played on acoustic guitar, right? And I forget who the singer is, but it's somebody famous, like some country
Kenny
singer.
Loggins.
Kenny Loggins, all right. And it's just a beautiful... For me, when it comes to songs, melody is always like the number one thing for me. Lyrics are kind of an afterthought for me, and nothing against lyrics. They're obviously important, but they're just not the first thing I notice. Like, I will definitely listen to a song and be like, oh, awesome melody, and like love a song, and then years later, listen to lyrics and be like, oh, wow, that's what that's about? All right. But in the case of the song, the melody was just like immediately beautiful to me. And so I've always loved Your Heart Will Lead You Home from Tigger movie, even though I've never seen the movie. So I don't know. Have you seen the movie?
I have. I own it, actually. It's decent. But I agree with this song. This was on my list, too. I think it's my number 4 or 5.
Ooh.
Number 5. And to me, it's a beautiful song, yes. But it is pure 90s goodness because it's overly sentimental. It's like sugary sweet, like just, like so good.
Fun fact about Tigger movie is it was the last hand-drawn animation film to go to theaters for Walt Disney Animation. There was Tigger movie, and the one before that was Princess and the Frog. And Tigger movie did not do so well at the theaters. Princess and the Frog didn't do as well as they wanted, and they kind of used those two films as the excuse as to why hand-drawn animation went away, which I think is really unfair, personally. I think there's many, many, many reasons for a film not doing well in theaters. A lot of it is timing and what it's up against in the theater. And then there's like the ridiculousness of the weather in the country at the time of its release will affect whether or not a movie does well at the box office. So I always find it funny when they're like, this is the reason there's no sequel, or this is the reason why, hand-drawn animation has gone away. I'm like, guys, come on.
You didn't see it, so maybe you're the reason why, too.
Quite possibly. I mean, to be fair, I don't think I've ever seen... Well, that's not true. I was going to say I don't think I've ever seen a Winnie the Pooh movie in theaters, but I did see Christopher Robin, so I guess there's that.
Well, another fun fact. So Kenny Loggins, who sings this and collaborated with the Sherman Brothers for this song, he did a song about Winnie the Pooh back in the early 90s. He kind of put out like this children's album that was lullaby-ish. And there was something called, or one of the songs called Return to Pooh Corner.
Okay.
And here's a really deep cut for you. There's an episode of Full House where Joey, Danny, and Jesse sing this song to the twins for like their bedtime, this Return to Pooh Corner song. And then Becky wants to join in, but she has a terrible voice. And so the plot of that episode is they're trying to tell Becky she can't sing because she's terrible, but they don't want to hurt her feelings, kind of a thing. So that's the first time I ever heard this song. And then I found out it was a legit song sung by Kenny Loggins. It had nothing to do with Disney at the time, just something he did on his own. And then 8 years later, he comes around and does it on the Tigger movie.
That is interesting. You know, I remember that episode of Full House, but I don't remember the song they sang. But I remember like that whole storyline.
Yeah, you should listen to it. If you like...
Your Heart Will Lead You Home.
Thank you. Titles. Then you will enjoy the other one.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. Well, that was my number 8. What's your number 7?
Number 7 is from The Jungle Book, and that is I Want to Be Like You. Every now and then, I feel like a Disney song in particular gets bigger than the movie itself, and it's just known in the popular culture. And I feel like I Want to Be Like You is that song it's bigger than The Jungle Book itself. Because you can go to any kind of club that's playing that kind of music, or maybe you're at a restaurant and there's like a band and then they're playing some swing music. They're going to play that song and everybody's going to know it, even if they don't know exactly what film it came from. So I think that's a testimony to songwriters and their ability that they can step outside of a genre and influence a genre in a way, even though they're not like primarily in that genre.
Yeah, it's a really good point you made. I will say the reason that song's not on my list, although I do like the song, I'm really sick of how overused it is these days in Disney nighttime spectaculars or parades or anything. I feel like I Want to Be Like You is just kind of, there's like a selective, I'd say there's probably like 10 songs that Disney always throws into their shows. Like it was just in Mickey's Mixed Magic, it's in Mickey and the Magical Map, and I'm like, this is such an old song. That doesn't mean it can't be used, but it's just curious to me like why they keep going back to that well when they have an enormous library of music. I'm like, why are we hearing this one again? Like, it kind of blows my mind.
I think it's just because, like I said, it's ingrained in people's brains in the culture. And just the story behind that song is fun. The way that Louis Prima kind of came in and did his thing. And there's like footage of them rehearsing and they're all just like marching around the studio, playing their instruments, just having a good time. And then not Phil Hartman.
Phil Collins?
That's somebody. Who?
Phil Collins?
No. The voice of Baloo. Phil.
Oh, the voice of Baloo. I don't know the voice of Baloo. I know the current voice of Baloo is John Goodman.
Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. But Phil is his first name. And the way that he just kind of like jumped in and did the scatting without having any sort of training on that and just was like feeling it in the moment. It's just such an iconic song, and it has like the story behind it that lends to those kind of iconic moments. And I think that's why it's used so much, and rightfully so. Phil Harris. Phil Harris is his name.
Okay. I think the reason it's ingrained in everybody's brain is because it's used so much.
Well, I mean, tomato.
It's in everything at the Disney parks, it feels like. It blows my mind. And
I feel that way about Life is a Highway.
Well, that's because it's like the one song from Cars, right? That like people know. So they're like, well, we got to fit our Pixar in the parks. Next song on my list, Life is a Highway. No, that's just kidding. That's not Sherman Brothers. But isn't I Want to Be Like You, is that not part of Happily Ever After as well? Or am I making that up?
It definitely is.
Oh, gosh, it's everything. It's unbelievable. Okay, my number 7, we're going to go to Mary Poppins. And this is the song in Mary Poppins that, like, it gives me the feels. And it's Let's Go Fly a Kite. And I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's like the end, the finale of the film or what. But there's something about Let's Go Fly a Kite. And even in Mary Poppins Returns. There's the Let's Go Fly a Kite rip off, the Nowhere to Go But Up. And it gives me like the same feels. And not that that's a Sherman Brothers song by any means, but I don't know. There's something about those moments in the films it just seems like the perfect song for the perfect moment. And it's such a catchy tune. Like, I love Let's Go Fly a Kite.
It has a nice build up there, and whoa, kind of like takes you to another level.
Yeah, and if you really want to get like all the feels with Let's Go Fly a Kite, listen to the final track on the Broadway or London musical recording, and they basically the orchestration of Let's Go Fly a Kite is played really loudly and like really orchestra bursty when Mary is flying over the audience. So I'm actually getting chills thinking of the moment right now. Like it's a crazy moment in the live show that is just beautiful. So if Let's Go Fly a Kite gives you the feels in general, like that's a beautiful version of it to listen to.
I've never seen that on stage. I need to.
It's really good, and as a person who, I apologize in advance, but I'm not like a huge fan of the film. I really, really enjoyed the stage production. I saw it on Broadway, and I was like, this is great. Like, it's a great, great cast album and everything. I will suggest, if you're gonna like deep dive into the musical of Mary Poppins, try and get your hands on the original London cast album as well, because there was a song called Temper Temper that was in the London production that wasn't in the Broadway production. I think it was replaced by something else, but it's a really creepy, fun song that I was sad wasn't brought to Broadway. And yeah, Temper Temper is wonderful. But yeah, I highly suggest it. If you like the music of Mary Poppins, listen to any cast recording that there is, because like the new stuff is beautiful. And even though it wasn't the Sherman Brothers who wrote it, it's very much in the feel of the Sherman Brothers. Like you can't even tell, at least in my opinion, that it's different composers. And the Sherman Brothers stuff is just like amplified. The orchestrations are beautiful and the musical. So
creepy and fun. If that doesn't sum up Jeff, I don't know what does.
If that doesn't sum up Mary Poppins, I don't know what does. Like
that is true. She could have easily be a villain,
You must have seen at some point like the re-edited trailer. I think they call it Scary Mary on YouTube. You ever seen somebody edited Mary Poppins into like a horror movie?
No, but I'm fascinated.
Oh, you must. It's called, I think if you go to YouTube and type in Scary Mary or Scary Mary Poppins, something like that, you'll see somebody took footage from the film and, made it slower, put new music over it and stuff. It's a horror movie trailer and it's phenomenal. Highly, highly, highly suggest it.
That's fascinating.
Check it out. That was my number 7. So what is your number 6?
My number 6, I love this song so much because it just, to me, is the epitome of Richard Sherman and just the Sherman Brothers being simple, wholesome, and pure. And that is Busy Doing Nothing from the Christopher Robin film.
This almost made it to my list. And this is a great song for a movie that really wasn't that great. And it was, I think the only time we hear it is during the credits of the film. Isn't that correct?
Correct. And so if for those who haven't seen the film, a little spoiler here, but during the credits, the Pooh characters are all chilling at the beach. And there happens to be Richard Sherman also chilling at the beach in like a 1930s bathing suit, which I think is delightful. Do you remember this? It's the old school men's swimsuits. Anyways.
Absolutely.
And he sits down at a piano and he sings this song. And this is, again, almost 90-year-old Richard Sherman just doing what he does best, playing the piano and singing a song and just being delightful. And that's why I love it, because it's so charming. You just feel the wholesome goodness in a world that lacks that so much. We need this at this moment.
Yeah, it's really interesting because the Sherman Brothers definitely have a very specific sound to them. And as you said, that song obviously was written by Richard Sherman as Robert Sherman has passed away. But it has that Sherman Brothers like kind of dun 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 sound and like banging on the piano keys. And it's just like, oh, that's a Sherman Brothers song, And it's a very specific sound and it's kind of old-fashioned-y at this point. but delightful. And it really is a fun song. You can actually find that scene on the beach and everything that you were just describing. If you go to YouTube and type in the name of the song, what's it called again? Busy, Busy, Busy Doing Nothing? Or
Busy Doing Nothing is the
Busy Doing
official
Nothing.
title.
Yeah.
But it also is what I think is quintessential Sherman Brothers, and that is earworm. They get into your brain, and you find yourself singing it all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next song, number 6, is from The Jungle Book, but unlike I Want to Be Like You, this is a song that I feel like is very often forgotten from The Jungle Book, but I think the most beautiful melody from The Jungle Book, and that's My Own Home, which if I'm remembering correctly, we don't really get introduced to the song until the end when we see the little girl, going to get the water. Maybe it's in background score somewhere else in the film. I'm not sure, but it's that da 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 da. So pretty. Like talk about, as I mentioned before, like melody is the first thing I notice with songs, and that melody. In fact, I would argue that does not feel very Sherman Brothers like to me. It's like the opposite of that, like honky tonk kind of music. It's just this beautiful, beautiful melody that runs through it. And I love this song. You kind of had a reaction of, oh, when I mentioned it. And is that because it's like just a deep cut, or because you don't like it?
No, it's because it's a deep cut, because I actually haven't thought about that in a long time. But I do remember as a kid that song being very different to me, and not liking it as a kid. But as an adult now, I can appreciate, like you said, the melody and kind of I think it's important to the film, because that's kind of the theme for the human world. So the animal world is the look for the bare necessity, that kind of like jovial, like you said, for lack of a better word, honky tonkish, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas like the human world is very serious and very subdued. So I guess, it plays on several levels now that I think about it as an adult.
Yeah, it is interesting how like songs can change for you as an adult, because I can remember as a kid, like with Little Mermaid, which is my favorite Disney animated movie. Of course, Alan Menken and Howard Ashman wrote the music for that. And I remember being like, a part of your world is a bore. I want to get to Under the Sea. And now my feelings are the complete opposite. I'm like, honestly, I can do without Under the Sea. Part of your world, though, is epic. And even like in The Wizard of Oz, I can remember as a kid, like literally fast forwarding through Over the Rainbow. And now I'm like, it's the best song in the show.
But I think we all did that as kids because we wanted to get to like Munchkin Land.
Maybe. You just wanted some color on your screen, so.
That's right. Red, blue, purple, red, green, red, blue.
Cool. So that was my number 6. What is your number 5? We are halfway there.
So my number 5 was already mentioned, and that was Your Heart Will Lead You Home.
Okay, from the Tigger movie. Great. My number 5 is, once again, I obviously have some movies I need to see. From a movie I did not see, and our good friend Aaron Wallace, author of the Thinking Fan's Guide to Walt Disney World books, is going to be so angry at me because I haven't seen this movie. It is The Age of Not Believing from Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And this is a song. Now, not only does it have an amazing melody, but the lyrics of this song, they just kind of like hit home type of thing. I don't know. They hit you in the heart. And, it's a beautiful, beautiful song sung by Angela Lansbury in the film. And do you know the song I'm referring to?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And the song's about, I guess, like when you hit that age of transitioning of, having this wonderful magical mind, and then like kind of reality sets in, and you hit that age of not believing anymore. And then, hopefully we all get to a point as an adult where it's like, I want that magic back. And like you start searching for that again. And yeah, it's a great song. I absolutely love it. And I need to see Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I'm well aware. I need to see it.
Yeah, and this is another example of the Sherman Brothers using a very simple melody and earwormish, not as much as some of their other songs, but also they're able lyrically to convey deep truths through what come across as like simple children's songs. And that in and of itself is a skill.
Yeah, that was like, I think that's what they were masters at. And, if folks listening don't know, the composer of these songs, basically the composition primarily went to Richard Sherman and the lyrics went to Robert Sherman. And I'm sure they had some influence on each other, but it was a pretty amazing that these two brothers whose father was a songwriter as well, they just kind of complemented each other that way, even if, they were very different people in real life. It is quite a phenomenal, their library of music and their history, just listening to them talk about, their days on the studio lot and working with Walt. And it must have been surreal and crazy. And I'm telling you folks, if you haven't watched the documentary, check it out because you will be blown away. Absolutely. Have I ever told you my Dick Sherman story?
No.
This is kind of funny. I went and saw The Boys, the Sherman Brothers story documentary at the El Capitan here in Hollywood. And that is the theater that Disney owns. It's right across the street from the famous Chinese theater in Hollywood. And, I had been keeping my eyes on this movie for a long time. I can't remember where I first saw the trailer, but I was like, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, I must see this. And so I kept my eye on it. And the El Capitan was one of the first places it played. It had like a limited release in theaters. And so I went out of my way to see it. And a week later, I had some friends working on the tour of Chitty, Chitty, Bang, Bang, which is another film that the Sherman Brothers wrote music for, but not a Disney film, even though a lot of people think it is. But in any case, I go to the theater. This was the live touring production of Chitty, Chitty, Bang, Bang. And I sit in my seat. And I literally said to my buddy that I was with at the time, I said, man, I hope Richard Sherman shows up for this. And there's no reason that he would. It wasn't opening night. It was there for a good extended period of time. There's no reason that he would have necessarily been there. I kid you not. Who sits in front of me but Richard Sherman?
No.
I'm telling you the God's honest truth. Like literally,
I would have died.
The seat in front of me. And so that was the first time I met Richard Sherman. And I was just like, obviously I introduced myself and I was like, oh, I love the movie. And I think it was his son who was with him who produced or directed the movie, the documentary. And like, it was so surreal. Since then, I've like had lunch with him and like met him several times. And he's always the nicest guy on earth. Love him to death. But it was just very funny to me that like that first time that I met him, it was like probably within 5 to 10 minutes after turning to my buddy sitting next to me saying, I would love it if Richard Sherman was here tonight. And then he sits in the seat in front of me. Crazy.
Man, I've been like, I would love it if $10 million just happened to fall from the ceiling.
I wish I had those powers. I have a lot of amazing things happen like that where it seems too good to be true or just too weird. And there are stories too where bad things have happened because I've kind of predicted them that way. But so I have friends who actually like won't, if I say certain things around them, they'll get mad because they think they're just going to come true.
Well, this just brought up a story that you told me one time about how you killed.
I was going to not mention that, but yes, Doris Roberts, who people may know from everybody. Wow. This has nothing to do with Disney, but now that you've mentioned it, I have to tell the story. I was driving to the drive-in with a car full of friends, and for some reason or another, Doris Roberts' name was brought up. If you don't know Doris Roberts by name, she was the grandmother or Ray's mother on Everybody Loves Raymond. Also in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, she was the redheaded grandmother in that. Wonderful actress, love her. And they mentioned, somebody brought up her name, and I just got like this weird sinking sensation in my gut, and I just said, ooh. I'm like, I feel like she's going to die, like, very, very soon. And the next day she died. And I was just like, oh, man. And that scared quite a few of my friends.
Well, the funny part of that is, Jeff, one night we're all just hanging out, having a good time, just casually talking around the table. And out of nowhere, Jeff goes, have I ever told you guys about the time I may have killed Doris Roberts? Well,
no, I don't actually believe that my words have that much power, but it was a weird, kind of creepy situation. So I make Richard Sherman appear and I kill Doris Roberts, apparently.
Now, you had lunch, though, with Richard Sherman. I didn't know this. What were the circumstances around that?
We kind of just have mutual friends. The Magic Castle here in Hollywood is a private club where magicians hang out, and he is very good friends with the owner of the Magic Castle. He has been like pretty much his whole life, and he So he's often at the Magic Castle, just hanging out, grabbing lunch or whatever. And so, I have a friend that works there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, come meet Richard." And he's he's an awesome guy, and I really love that guy. He's a great guy. So
that's a dream. I mean, that is a dream. And granted, happy 91st. That dream is on borrowed time, I'm sure. But I would love to meet him.
Yeah, he signed I have a piece of sheet music from, I think it's Feed the Birds from Mary Poppins, and he signed it to me, and it hangs in my bedroom. And
wow.
Yeah, sorry, that was quite the tangent, but we went from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang to Doris Roberts, and then to lunch with, okay. Let's get back to the list. Shall we?
Yeah.
So that all came from the age of not believing? How does that even happen? Now I need to go back and listen to figure out how we got all of that. Okay, your number 4 is...
Number 4. Okay, well, we're going to tie it together here because my number 4 is Feed the Birds from Mary Poppins. Arguably, as a kid, least favorite song in the whole film, but... growing up, when you kind of realize that this was Walt's favorite song, it magnifies it by like 100, at least in my book. And then I started to see the song from a different perspective. And like you said earlier, you learn to see songs as you grow older, and you see how beautiful it is. And actually, just the depth of the song within the film itself, about the bird woman and how she is really sacrificed everything for these birds. And then, like I said, the metaphor there and the way that Walt saw it, that he was, everything was about the children and giving the best for them. I just love it. And then, of course, Richard Sherman tells the story about how they would always go to Walt's office every Friday, and they would have their weekly meeting. And at some point in the meeting, Walt would gesture towards the piano and tell them to play the song, and they would play Feed the Birds for him. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, there's another beautiful story about that song where for Disneyland's 50th birthday, they set up a little stage with a piano in front of Sleeping Beauty Castle at Disneyland. And Richard Sherman was there, and he performed Feed the Birds on the piano. And as he was singing the song, a bird swooped down and flew very close to Richard Sherman in the piano and then took off. And it was just he always tells it as, it was Walt checking in. And I was just like, oh gosh, what a great story and a great song. And I would agree with you. To me, it's like the Over the Rainbow of Wizard of Oz, where as a kid, you're just like, ugh, can we get through this? And then as an adult, you just fall in love with it. The one song like that I would agree still is terrible as an adult is Cheer Up Charlie from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. That does not need to exist.
Is that the one the mom sings?
Yeah. Cheer up, Charlie. No, yeah. Which is oh, I hate it. So bad. Not a Sherman Brothers song. And luckily, I just saw the stage tour, the national tour of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That song is not in it, I'm very happy to report. So
good to know.
Yeah, it's an okay show. It's whatever. But yeah, great choice. My number 4 is one I'm gonna assume it's higher up on your list, because if this is not on your list, I'll actually be a little disappointed, because it is, to me, quintessential Sherman Brothers. Love this song. One Little Spark of Inspiration from Journey into Imagination. The Figment song. I love One Little Spark. Great stuff. Is it on your list somewhere?
It's actually not on my list, no.
Oh, did you forget about this song?
No, I mean, I don't dislike One Little Spark, but you got to draw the line somewhere. And so, to be honest, One Little Spark, I got to be in a mood for it.
Oh, not me. I am always in the mood for One Little Spark. I love this song. Even to this day, people, say what they will about Journey into Imagination with Figment, the current version of the attraction at Epcot. But I love the fact that this song still exists in it in some way, shape, or form, even though it's not the grand version we once knew. I love this song. I love this melody. I love it. I'm sad it's not on your list at all.
Well, I mean, like I said, there's so many good ones that you got to kind of draw the line there. But I don't know. Like I said, I got to be in a mood. Maybe Eric Idle has kind of ruined it for me.
That may be true for some people. If that's the only version you know or you really know, on a lot of the Disney Parks albums, they have the original version of this song. So I love it. It's even the instrumentation of it. It sounds like toys kind of playing it, and it's just a fun little imaginary version or imaginative version of this song. I love it.
I kind of would like to go back in time and be in the pitch meeting when they were kind of like telling them what they wanted in this song. Because I'd love to hear like, hey, this is what the attraction's going to be. And just like the Imagineer's blueprint. And now we want you to write a song about this and be like, wow, what'd you have to work with?
Yeah, I've kind of heard that story when it comes to the Enchanted Tiki Room, where Walt was kind of like, they were developing the show, and it was, that show is primarily full of songs that already exist, and they just kind of do like a musical concert version of these songs. And Walt, supposedly the story goes that he was just like, what is this about? Like, we need a song that tells people what this room is about. And of course, he goes to his composers and on staff, and it's the Sherman Brothers, and he's like, hey, we need a song explaining what this room is. And then we get, in the tiki 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 room. And that's the history of that. That was my number 4. What's your number 3?
So my number 3 is a song that, again, I was not really familiar with until I watched The Boys, the documentary. And going back to my last comment, whenever somebody says something is their favorite or means something to them, it kind of magnifies it in my eyes. And so this is actually Robert Sherman's favorite song that he ever wrote. He mentions it in the documentary, and it's called On the Front Porch. Mm-hmm. And it's from the movie Summertime Magic. Or Summer
I think
Magic.
It's just Summer Magic.
Summer Magic. And again, I'm not really familiar with it. I haven't seen that movie, but maybe like once or twice in my whole life. But I listened to it in light of him mentioning it's his favorite. And it just kind of resonated with me because the song is just basically like, I'm on the front porch. It's not much of a front porch. It kind of creaks and squeaks, but it's at the end of the long day and we're listening to the birds, and it's my favorite place to be because I'm with you. And again, I kind of interpreted that watching the documentary as here's this old man who has worked hard his whole life, who has been successful, and yet he still recognizes what matters most in life. And it's not the awards he's won, and it's not the money he's made and the impact that he's had, but, just kind of what we all know to be the most important core values of life is the people that we love and the time that we spend with them. Those are the things that kind of last when everything else fades away. So it just means a lot to me, knowing it means a lot to him.
Yeah. Now, I will admit, Summer Magic is another one of those movies I need to see, especially since I know some music from Main Street USA comes from this film. And so I really do want to check it out. In fact, last time that like Turner Classic Movies was having one of those Disney nights, I remember that they showed Summer Magic, and I went to like set my DVR for it. But unfortunately, I was going to tune into it live. And unfortunately, like the time zone changed. It had already passed. They were like, the time I heard was the East Coast, not the West Coast. And so I missed it. So I need to like go out of my way and find it and get a copy of it because I do want to see that one. But yeah, great song. That was your number 3. My number 3 is a song that, once again, only Richard Sherman wrote this as Robert had passed away, but it was a song written for the theme parks, written for Disneyland's 60th anniversary. It's called A Kiss Goodnight, and it's sung by Ashley Brown, who is the original Mary Poppins on Broadway, and she has an amazing voice, and it's just a beautiful song, and it basically was played after the fireworks spectacular, the Disneyland Forever fireworks, which recently, came back to Disneyland Park. They got rid of Mickey's Mixed Magic, I guess, because the reviews weren't that great, and they brought back Disneyland Forever. I don't know if they're playing this song again as people exit. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the fireworks since they came back. And regardless, I love this song. I think it's a beautiful song. There's a little book that came out, and there's a recording of the song with the book, which I have. And, Walt used to call the fireworks at the end of the night at Disneyland the Kiss Goodnight. And I think it's cool that this many years later, Richard Sherman took, Walt's sentiment and wrote this beautiful song about it.
Yeah, I want to get that book as well. Is it like a children's book, or is it talk about the song?
It's a children's book. It kind of tells the story of the song. Okay. And then it comes with a CD that has Ashley Brown singing the song.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And like you said, the way that they're able to continue Walt's vision in the parks, or at least little aspects of it, I think that's important. And we have to remember, like, Richard Sherman is somebody who worked with Walt, like saw him on a weekly, if not a daily basis. Those kind of people are few and far between anymore. They're a part of a generation that's passing. So it's important that we remember these kind of things that they're sharing with us.
To me, it's actually boggles my mind still to this day. I've met a lot of folks who knew Walt, and I talk, I hear stories about them, but I still can't believe it to a point. Like, Walt is this mythical man in so many ways, and it's just crazy to think that these people, sat around with Walt Disney, and you hear all these different versions of Walt, and I'm sure he's a mix of all the versions that you hear, but it is fascinating to me whenever you come across somebody that worked with him or knew him.
Yeah, as he lingers over your left shoulder as we are recording this now in the background.
It's true. There's a poster of Walt on my wall. Okay, that was my number 3. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is a song that is known worldwide, and arguably the most popular.
This is on your list?
Let me tell you why. Because it goes back to something I mentioned earlier. It's a small world. That's what. Let me just get that out there first.
Yeah.
This song is the Nickelback of Disney songs. I get it. It's cool to hate. But that being said, if you heard it new and afresh, like you've never heard it before, you would be like, wow, what a great song. And they captured the importance of a simple children's song with a deep message. When you look at the lyrics of this song, it's very deep and very important.
Yeah, when I will say, when Richard performs this song in concert, I like it because he tends to start it off. He'll say it's a prayer for peace. That's kind of how he describes the song. And he'll start it off very slow and go, "It's a world of laughter, a world of cheer." And he starts it very slow. And then eventually he'll get in, to the honky tonk nature of the Sherman Brothers. It's a small world after all, and do all that stuff. But that when he sings it very slowly and beautifully, I prefer that version of the song instead of like children screaming it in the attraction. But I get it, that wouldn't work in the attraction if they did the version I like. So I totally get it. And it is a great song, no matter how it's sung. It's this song that I think the statistic is that this song never stops playing, because at every moment it is being played at some Disney park somewhere. When the sun sets here, it's rising in Shanghai or wherever else. And like, that's kind of an unbelievable statistic to think of. Like, it's never not playing somewhere in the world.
It's so awesome. And when you think about the fact too, that in 1994, when The Lion King came out, this is long before Disney sort of became tongue in cheek about their own self-awareness. They included this song in The Lion King.
Yeah.
So, it says something about the song itself. But I also think, like, not to get too deep into it, and not to say that this is intentional. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But I grew up in a Baptist church, and you had these sort of children's songs that you were taught, things like Jesus Loves Me and those kind of things, that had like deep theological truths, but they were sung in a very simple and easy manner. And it kind of sticks with you as a kid. And that's intentional. They want you to learn these deep spiritual truths, but in a way that children can relate to. And I feel like It's a Small World is on that same level. Like, here's a song that's going to be simple for even a 4 or 5-year-old to sing along with. But the truth of it, when you really think about the lyrics, it can be world changing.
It's undeniable, I think, that the Sherman Brothers wrote songs that meant far more than we initially realized. Like, and even I even wonder, like, if they realized how, I don't know if spiritual is the right word or what, but how they were doing more than writing songs in a lot of cases, I feel like. And
yeah, I would dare say they didn't, because most of the time when you're knee deep in the work, you don't realize the long-term impact.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would say, and not to take anything away from Richard Sherman, but my guess is since Robert was writing the lyrics for a lot of these, I think that a lot of that comes from him. I think that a lot of like the deep meanings of these songs really are felt in the lyrics. And so yeah, and Robert seemed like if you watch the documentary, comes across as a very serious man, very the type of person you would expect to go sit in silence for long periods of time, and you know what I mean? And just think and think and think and think and think, and when you spend that much time sitting and thinking in silence, I think like these gems just come from somewhere beyond, like that you grab onto, and so. Yeah, it's remarkable. The Sherman Brothers are remarkable.
A little aha Oprah moment there.
Yes, absolutely. Before Oprah was Oprah, he was like, aha. I think before Oprah was Oprah, right? Yeah, that would have been way before that. So my number 2, that was your number 2, right?
Correct.
My number 2 was mentioned already. It's Feed the Birds from Mary Poppins. And the reason, very much like you said, as an adult, I think I've grown to love this song. But the story connection to Walt, really, that's a big deal, I think. And knowing that, I've actually been in the office with the piano. And it's just, it's weird to think of. You see that, if I'm remembering correctly, they may have even had that sheet music out on the piano when I was in there. And it's just... And actually, when they reopened Walt's office, so if you don't know, Walt Disney Archives, a few years back, basically, Walt's office was kind of closed to the public for a long time. Actually, yeah, it was somebody else's office, but they decided to recreate it to the way that it was the day that Walt passed away. So they brought in a lot of the original furniture and redid it that way. And when they rededicated it, Richard Sherman came in, sat at that piano, played Feed the Birds with, a very small group of people in there. And yeah, it's kind of like Walt's unofficial anthem, that song.
That's a spiritual moment right there. That's like, I would have gone to church. I would have shouted and cried.
You're hilarious. Okay, so your number 1 Sherman Brothers song. Has it been mentioned? Has it been mentioned? Okay.
Well,
let me see if I can guess.
mentioned, but not as a number.
Okay. Oh, was it something I said I hated?
No.
Okay.
My number 1 is my favorite attraction at the Magic Kingdom. And
the Enchanted Tiki Room?
It is. It's the Tiki Room.
This is your number 1 Sherman Brothers song.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pair it with another Sherman Brothers song called Pineapple Princess, which was sung by Annette Funicello.
That was almost on my least favorite list.
Really?
Pineapple Princess, they call me Pineapple Princess all day.
So these songs come out of a time in American culture where Polynesian culture was really like popular, mainstream. And right or wrong, whatever, I think it's great and I loved it. And so like, I don't know, the Tiki Room is my favorite attraction because I think it's just so charming and so innocent and just a piece of Walt. And it's just like so, it's a time capsule for me. And I can just turn off my brain and enjoy 10 minutes and it's wonderful. So this song, anytime that I'm in a bad mood, I listen to those two coupled together and it just instantly cheers me up. But I think that the lyrics and the wordplay, while a little dated, is brilliant.
Give me an example.
The boys in the back are called macaws because of their claws, no, because they're macaws. I mean, come on.
All right. Yeah. The Sherman Brothers certainly had a way with words, and often made up a lot of words, which actually I don't think we had too many songs in our list that, like, we didn't have a supercalifragilistic or, any of those songs where they made up too much stuff, but they certainly made up. The thing that I find crazy when people make up words and make them part of a song is it's like an art to make it believable. Like if I made up a word, people would be like, that is a made up word. Whereas when the Sherman Brothers did it, it's like, yeah, that's a word. I believe that that's a word that works in this world or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. So the Enchanted Tiki Room. Now, obviously, the Enchanted Tiki Room at Walt Disney World went under new management for a period of time. But when you think about that, did you ever get to see that version live?
That's the first version I ever saw.
Oh,
My
wow.
first exposure was under new management, and I hated it.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people hated it. I saw it once live, and I don't remember hating it as much as a lot of people did. But I do remember, and I mentioned this just because, this is kind of a testament to the song. That song was still part of it. Now, was it Iago? I think Iago interrupted it, but the birds start the show singing in the tiki 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 room, and then, we've heard that song before, or whatever. But it is, kind of a nice tribute, the fact that they're like, we can't do, even an under new management version, we cannot have the Enchanted Tiki Room without this song. So
yeah, but then they insulted it, because the whole thing is like, he comes in, he's like, this is boring. Nobody wants to see this anymore.
Kind of, but at the same time, my guess is, and I could be totally wrong here, but my guess is that the Imagineers were probably given this really hard task of, hey, make it less boring, update this attraction. And if I had to guess, whoever made that decision was probably like, listen, we need to fit this song in because you can't have the Enchanted Tiki Room without it. So how can we fit it in to make the higher ups happy in the respect of it's, making it less boring and updating it? Oh, well, let's just make, poke fun at it. That's my guess of how it probably went down. I could be 1,000% wrong here. I don't know.
Maybe, but it totally backfired. And thank God it caught fire and we got it, reverted back with this wave of nostalgia.
Now, were you familiar? You said your first experience seeing it live was under new management, but were you familiar with the Enchanted Tiki Room before that?
No. So, my first trip to a Disney park, I went and I fell absolutely in love. And then I'm the type of personality where I wanted to know everything about everything. So that's kind of when I dove deep into, the history of the Disney parks and the history of audio animatronics. And then I discovered, oh, wow, the Enchanted Tiki Room really is this important historical moment for not only Walt Disney, but for theme parks and audio animatronics. And now look what they've done to this attraction. And it's just like a joke and nobody goes in there now. So, yeah, I didn't see it in its restored form until they redid it.
But you'd like listen to the song on recordings?
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Okay, cool. My number one, my guess is we're good enough friends that you already know the answer to this.
I do know. I do think so, yes.
What do you think my number one is?
If I had to take a stab in the dark, I would say Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow from Carousel of Progress.
There's a great big beautiful tomorrow shining at the end of every day is indeed my number one Sherman Brothers song. This is really, truly one of my absolute favorite Disney songs of all time, not just Sherman Brothers. I love this song. The Carousel of Progress is the attraction that when I go to the Magic Kingdom, it's the first attraction I think about. I will be the man to chain himself to the Carousel of Progress when the day comes that they're like, nope, no more of this. Like, gosh, I hope I don't live to see that. That would devastate me. I love this attraction. I love this song. Once again, the lyrics of the song. Man has a dream and that's the start. He follows his dream with mind and heart. And when it becomes a reality, there's a dream come true for you and me. Like, that's just like everything I believe in. I love There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. And as much as, as I said, my number 10 was The Best Time of Your Life, the song that replaced Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. I will say I never did see the Carousel of Progress with The Best Time of Your Life, and if I did, I have zero memory of it. So I'm happy that my memory of the Carousel of Progress has always included Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. I love this song. I feel like Disney uses it a good amount. Like, you'll hear it on the bus, or you'll just hear it in random places. And it's a phenomenal song, and it's not on your list anywhere, huh?
No, I mean, I enjoy the song, don't get me wrong. To me, Disney, this is one of those songs that Disney has never really broken through to the mainstream. because when you think like It's a Small World, like that's known to the greater public outside of just the theme park people. But this song is like so iconic within the fan community.
I think that's part of the reason I love it.
Yeah, I can see that. You're very hipstery when it comes to your Sherman Brothers songs.
No, I just like things that are kind of secrets. Like, I think it's fun I love it when like you'll see somebody wearing a t-shirt that like 90% of the people that walk by won't get, and then you do, and you're like, oh, or you're wearing one, and you see somebody give you a look or a, wink or whatever, and you're like, oh, they're in the know, they're cool. Like, I love that.
That's true. I got a tattoo for that very reason.
Yes, you have the Mary Blair 5-legged goat, right?
Yes, I do. And people will compliment it from time to time, thinking I'm like an Aries or something. I don't know what that means. But then every now and then somebody will be like, is that the 5-legged goat? And I know that they are an OG.
Yeah, and you have mad respect for them at that point. So
exactly.
That's how I feel about Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow. I love it. I don't think it's that obscure, to be honest, but it is, not super well known, I would say. But I love this song. Love this song. Love the attraction. There's a lot of love when it comes to the Carousel of Progress.
Do you wish it would come back to Disneyland?
I would be thrilled if it came to Disneyland. I'd be doubly thrilled if they built a new one for Disneyland and like didn't remove it from Walt Disney World. I'm cool with them updating it. I think honestly at this point, Tomorrowland, there's always the conversation of, is it, it's kind of impossible to keep it tomorrow. So I'm all for like creating a retro Tomorrowland, and I would be totally fine with this. And I know this kind of defeats the purpose of Carousel of Progress, but if they wanted to make it like the original show that Walt Disney directed and created, and make the final scene in the, whatever it would have been, 60s or 70s or whatever it was, I'd be cool with that. I think I really would be okay with that. And, if it was, I always do say though, I think it would be kind of cool to do an updated version of the Carousel of Progress where each scene, the audio animatronics represent the decade of audio animatronic figures. You know what I mean?
That would be creepy, but cool.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of cool to see the family progress until like in that final scene, we'll get characters like we see today where they're very, very lifelike. And I think that could be kind of interesting. So I love that family. It's like, to me, when I see them, it's like, I feel like I'm watching an episode of Growing Pains. It's just like, just feels like a sitcom to me, and in all the best ways possible. I love it. Show me that smile again. Oh, Jeremy, you're losing it right now. How random. You love it. Anyway, we have been gushing over the Sherman Brothers for far too long, just in case Dick Sherman listens to this episode. I don't want his ego to get too big. So let's talk about, we each picked our least favorite Sherman Brothers song. So I'm dying to know. What do you say is your least favorite?
Okay, I'm going to get slaughtered for this, but because people love this song, and I don't get it at all. This had to be during like the Sherman Brothers like experimental drug days.
Oh my gosh, I think we have the same song.
Okay, mine is making memories from Magic Journeys.
Okay, that's not what I have, but I completely agree with you.
It's just so weird. Like, it's just not Sherman Brothers at all.
Well, there's the making memories part that kind of is, but then like that's the song that has like a very slow beginning, right?
Yes, and it's like it's almost like the Carpenters, like that airy sort of fluty Jesus Christ Superstar-y sort of feel.
This was OG Epcot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was I completely agree with what you're saying, 100%. I don't like this song either. But yeah, I feel like there are people who love it. And I think it's because of people love OG Epcot, as do I. But I think that's why people love it if they do. I could be wrong. If you love it for another reason, write the show. I'd love to hear why. But okay, I agree. Mine, I think, is even more controversial. And I will say a lot of this has to do with, very much like I was saying about, I want to be like you. I feel like this is overused. I feel like a lot of people don't even know where it's from. Heffalumps and Woozles. What a random song. When you said drug-induced, that's why I thought we had the same song. This feels like, just out there. I've never really loved this animated sequence. It kind of bothers me that it's in the ride. It's in a lot of the nighttime projection shows. Heffalumps and Woozles, not a fan.
Yeah, I could see that. It's not my favorite either. I don't dislike it, but it definitely has always been strange to me how they're included in the villains, because I don't really see them as villains.
I mean, they're screw. It's a nightmare, right? You know, it's like a nightmare. So I get it, but I agree. I feel like it's kind of loose, and you know, it's very Elephants on Parade from Dumbo.
Yeah. Yeah, and didn't they do a movie like Winnie the Pooh and the Huffalump movie?
Yes, I think you're right. Once again, didn't see it, but I think you're right. I do remember that title, so I don't know. Heffalumps and Woozles didn't do it for me. And I actually do have a second song on this list. I got to mention the Flubber song is a terrible song. Where it's, oh, it's Flubber, and it's just like, what is this? This is from like the original Nutty Professor. No, not a fan.
They all can't be winners, you know. There has to be a few stinkers every now and then.
Absolutely. And, you know, it is crazy because obviously the Sherman Brothers have written a lot of music beyond Disney, as I mentioned, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And the one that when I saw, I remember seeing the Sherman Brothers documentary and they started playing You're 16. You're 16, you're beautiful and you're mine. And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know how I know this song, but I know this song and I love this song. And the Sherman Brothers wrote this? Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, didn't Ringo Starr do a version of it?
Maybe. I'm not sure. But, like, it's a great song. And, you know, their music hit pop culture beyond, like, Disney pop culture. You know, it was a pop song, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I don't know. I'm glad we're past the days where we sing songs about 16-year-olds.
Never thought about that. Well, maybe the person singing it was 16. Well, Ringo Starr was not 16. I don't know. But you just made it dirty when it didn't need to be.
I'm just saying, just throwing it out there.
Of course, these days, Dick Sherman, you know, he, as I mentioned today, if you're listening on the day of its release, he just turned 91 years old, but still consulting with the Walt Disney Company quite a bit on the Mary Poppins musical several years back. Mary Poppins Returns just last year, wrote a new music for Christopher Robin. So who knows what Sherman music still may be to come in the future, you know? It's unbelievable. Is there anything else you want to add about the Sherman Brothers music before we jump into some trivia here?
No, I'm ready for trivia.
That means it's trivia time! All right, would you like to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
Let me hit you first. Okay. So, Sherman Brothers wrote a song for Mary Poppins.
We have the same trivia question.
Are you serious?
Trust in me, the land of sand. Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Let's just tell the story here. I'll let you tell the story.
Well, I mean, I just know that they wrote this song, and it was supposed to be like, because doesn't Mary gonna go into like? Well, you tell the story. So
for the film Mary Poppins, which came before The Jungle Book, the Sherman Brothers wrote a song called "The Land of Sand," and it ended up being a deleted song from Mary Poppins. It wasn't in the film. It was, finally replaced by the song "Stay Awake" in the finished film. But when it came time to write a song for the snake in The Jungle Book, they took the melody from "The Land of Sand," changed the lyrics, and it became "Trust in Me" in The Jungle Book. So. Yeah, that's the story, and we had the same exact trivia question.
We're great minds. Both had number 10, and both had the same trivia question.
That is unbelievable. Well, fun conversation about the Sherman Brothers. I love the Sherman Brothers. If you want to learn more about them, or just the Sherman Brothers Songbook is a really great album out there. It's like, you know, if you're back in the old days when we had discs, it was 2 discs. So it's a lot of music on there. Also, as we mentioned, The Boys, the Sherman Brothers Story is a phenomenal documentary about them. I highly suggest it. But Jeremy, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you over at your Mad Chattery podcast?
That's right. My friend Derek and I, we host the Mad Chatter podcast every 2 weeks. We release a new one. You can find us on Instagram and on Twitter at Mad Chatters. And if you want to follow me on my personal accounts, they're linked there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Always a joy, Jeff DePauli.
Now, here on Disney Coast to Coast every month, I create a new Disney music playlist for your enjoyment, and next month, the theme of the playlist will be the Sherman Brothers, featuring a lot of the music you've heard us discuss here today. So to sign up for this music playlist and have it sent directly to your inbox, visit DisneyCoastToCoast.com and simply click on Playlist. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.